Do you know where Abraham was when he tried to sacrifice Isaac? Yeah, he was on Mount Zion, which is the same as Mount Zion. So that's where the temple was built, right? The temple is where we sacrificed animals, correct? So that'll be important shortly. So this is the next chiddush. The next chiddush is, you know the story of the two brothers in the temple site? You know that, Jennifer? I'll tell it to you quickly. It's in the time of King David. Two brothers had adjacent farms. Their father had passed away and left them, split the farm and left them adjacent farms. One brother was married and had kids, the other brother was single. It was harvest time. There were piles of grain in the field, and the brother with a wife and children said to his wife one evening, you know, I have the joy of having a wife and children, and my brother doesn't. His only pleasure, he doesn't have kids, doesn't have a wife, a companion. His only pleasure is feeling he has a productive farm. So what I'd like to do is, I'd like to put some of our grain in his heap, make him feel good. We have enough food to eat. So his wife said, it's a good idea. So he went at night, he took sheaves from his pile on his shoulder and went into his brother's field so his brother wouldn't be embarrassed. The brother was awake that same night and said to himself, I'm alone. I have no trouble feeding myself. My brother has all these mouths to feed. Why don't I give him some of my grain? But he wanted to do it at night so he wouldn't embarrass his brother. He went with sheaves on his shoulder into the field of his brother. They crossed in the night, and next morning they found the heaps equal. Nothing had changed. They were befuddled. They tried again the second night. Again they missed each other. But on the third night, they met at the border and saw each other and realized what had happened. And they fell on each other's necks weeping. And God looked down and said, on this spot, I want to build my temple. It's a lovely story, right? Beautiful story. Now, people think it's in the Midrash, but it's not. It's not. And I looked at, I know the Midrash well. It's not in the Midrash. So I looked what the history of the story is. And the earliest version I found was in Livorno, Italy in 1851, in a Hebrew book. So,
Written by?
I don't remember. Not a book of stories. So, now, but the thing is, listen to this. We know how the temple site was chosen. It says in the Torah. It says in the Torah. The story is that King David, there was a plague in Israel approaching Jerusalem. And a prophet told King David, buy the threshing floor, by the farm of this Gentile farmer, a Jebusite, a Yebusi. They were the ones who owned Jerusalem before us. So David goes there and sacrifices, built an altar there and sacrifice on it. David goes there and speaks to this Jebusite, tells him he wants to buy the land for an altar, and the man, hearing what the purpose is, says, I'll give it to you for free, you know. David didn't want it for free. David pays for it, and built the altar there, makes sacrifice, and that became the altar of the temple. The plague stopped. It becomes the altar of the temple. Now, who was this guy? Who was this farmer? Let's say God says, I want to live on one place on earth, and David Schweike, I want you to move out. I want your place. So who's David Schweike? What did he do? God chose one place on earth to live. He's going to David Schweike's apartment. We wouldn't have thought, you know. So this is a Gentile, a Jebusite. What on earth did he do that God is using his farm for his one place on earth? So, now, by the way, the rabbis say in the Talmud, don't let the blessing of a common person seem insignificant to you. Don't let the blessing of a common person seem insignificant to you. Meaning, everybody wants the blessing with tzaddik. But if a beggar on the street, you give him $3 and he gives you bracha, people don't care. The rabbis say it's a mistake. Now, you give two examples where a common person, common in quotes, a common person's blessing was effective. One is this Jebusite, And he said the temple was built in the merit of his blessing. He blessed David that his project would succeed. The temple was built in the merit of this Gentile's blessing. So he's obviously an incredible person. Now, this story, I don't know if you know this, but the story of David is a big story. It's like a novella in the Torah. There's more about David maybe than Moses. People don't study it. And it exists in two versions, incredibly. One is in the Samuels and Kings. The other version is in Chronicles. Two versions. Now, in the two versions, the name of the farmer is different. In one, it's Arona. In the other, it's Ornan. Arona and Ornan. So what do the rabbis do? The rabbis, there's a gap in the Torah. Like the Torah doesn't say who this guy is. Neither does the Torah explain why Abram was chosen. So the Midrash, the rabbis make up stories to explain from clues in the Torah why Abram was chosen, right? Mm-hmm. Now, they come up with a story about why this Jebusite was chosen. And they find out that he has two names, different names, with almost the same letters. Arona and Ornan. So what do? See, if this was like an academic scholar, he'd say, well, there's two different streams of tradition, and they got the name wrong. Right? That's what an academic scholar would do. It's not the way the rabbis thought. The rabbis think, oh, two names. What's going on here? Oh, this is two brothers. It's two brothers. And what did they do to be worthy? The temple was built on their land. They loved each other. They loved each other. And that's where this midrash comes from. It's a lost midrash. It's a lost midrash. Why do you think it was lost? Do you know that these brothers were Gentiles? They were Jebusites.
Wow.
You never heard that, right? You heard the story, but nobody ever said they were Gentiles, right? But we know from the Torah that they were. Why do you think it dropped out of the tradition? Because it came a point when the Jews went into exile that they weren't so happy, the rabbis, about being told that the Jebusites belonged there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like awkward for some people. But now I think we dig it. Now we're happy about it. So this is a lost midrash, and we know how it came into being. It's obvious how it came into being. The two brothers, because there are two names. That's the way the rabbis work. So this is undoubtedly a Jewish story. And okay, now when a story tells you that someone loves another person, it's beautiful. When there's mutual love, when it goes both ways, it's messianic. A lot of stories have one person, brother helping his brother, a friend helping a friend, whatever. But when it's both ways, like in this story, it's messianic. So that's the completion, that everybody will be giving and receiving love. Further, this is about Gentiles. It's messianic. Because at the end of the days, like, the temple, the ancient temple, Solomon's temple, had a court of the Gentiles, right? So Isaiah says the temple should be, my house should be a house of prayer for all peoples. That's at the end of days. So the story about Gentiles befits the thing. So it's mutual love, and about Gentiles, that's the end time. It's the redemption. Now, one of the most beautiful stories in the Torah was King David tells his son Solomon that he said, God told me that I could not build a temple because my hands were full of blood. He was fighting God's wars. Because he was violent, God didn't want him to build the temple. Now this story about the two brothers, which is the lost midrash, I believe, it shows that the temple is only built on the foundation and basis of love. The two brothers, you see? So in the tradition, the reason the temple was built there was because of Abraham, right? And there's this dark story about killing your son. This was an upgrade. Understand? This story of the two brothers is like an upgrade. We're making the thing about that why we're building the temple in this site, it's a little bit more because of love. But that's the basis. The ritualistic worship and sacrifices are not the essence. The essence is the bedrock love. That's the love that brings God down into this world. God comes down into this world because the two brothers love each other. He says, I'm going to build my temple here. That's That's the third Chiddush. Okay, this is also a tikkun, perhaps, for Cain and Abel. Two brothers who hated each other. That's the origin of hate and violence, right? These two brothers love each other. Tikkun for Cain and Abel. And one of the Midrashim says that Cain and Abel argued over whose territory the future temple will be built in. Here, so there's a tikkun. It's built on the border. Understand with the two brothers? It's built on the border. Actually, I don't know if I'll get to it, but there's two idols that are kosher. What are the kosher idols in Judaism?
Kruvim.
The kruvim, the angels that are above the ark. So maybe we'll have a chance to talk about that a little bit later. But this is my fourth. That's the third chiddush. The story of the two brothers is the third chiddush. Here's the fourth. The fourth is Chad Gadya. Now, Chad Gadya is a lovely ditty, and you can't find. I've written a commentary on the Haggadah. Mitzvah will come out soon, and you can't find a pshat on the Chad Gadya. You can't find the pshat. It's all stretching and straining to come up with these allegorical teachings. But I think I figured out what the pshat is, and it's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. It's the final ditty, it's the final song in the Haggadah, and the body of the song is clear, that that's this miserable chain of karmic violence, right? And misery that will be rectified in the end of days. So the father, the song is sung by the little boy. His father buys a cat, which is eaten by a little goat. It's eaten by the cat. The cat is bitten by the dog. The dog is beaten by the stick. The stick is burned by the fire. The fire is put out by the water. The ox laps up the water. The shochet kills the ox. The Malach HaMavet, the angel of death, kills the shochet. And God kills the angel of death, right? Okay, listen to this. So it's pretty clear that this miserable chain of cause and effect, karma, that God will fix it in the end of days and wipe the tear from every eye and remove death. But there are two clues that help me understand what this is about. The first clue is there are three shechtings in this story, in this song. Three shechtings. The shochet shechts the ox, the angel of death shechts the shochet, and God shechts the angel of death. That means it's important. Shechting is important in this story.